Welcome back. You're still watching VOP this morning. And now to our next topic. Tinubu, the son of President Bola Tinubu, was on Sunday flown to Kano in a presidential jet to watch the finals of this year's edition of the Kano International Polo Tournament. Witnesses say the presidential jet conveying Tinubu and his friends landed in Kano around midday on Sunday. He was said to have been received at the airport by some officials of the presidency, the Kano state government, and the Kano Polo Club. He was thereafter chauffeured to the Osman Dantata Polo ground amidst tight security provided by gun-wielding detachments of the Nigerian police force and the State Security Service. After the final matches of the two-week tournament were played and awards handed to winners, the waiting presidential jet then transported Tinubu and his party back to Abuja, the nation's capital, where he currently lives. Still with us virtually is Chukwuma Okoro, John Akerele, and Charles Adeho. Thank you, gentlemen, for still staying with us. Now to you, Chukwuma. What's your take on Tinubu's abuse of public assets? What do you find this offensive?
Is this an abuse to start with?
Well, I mean,
what's your take on it?
What's your take?
Chukwuma.
Well, Moses, they don't allow Joy to say what he wanted to say. It's clearly an abuse. It's clearly an abuse because in the first place, Tinubu is not, I don't know him to be a government operative. He was not elected on any platform. He was not appointed by the president for any federal position. He doesn't have a job with any federal ministry. Point blank, he is not a federal government operative. So for him to use our presidential jet this morning is clearly an abuse. And we shouldn't just stop at that. Nigerians should find a way around it to ensure that this infrastructure is clearly dealt with, either legally by sanctioning him or for him to publicly apologize to Nigerians and say, Nigerians, please, I'm sorry for using your public asset on a personal note, for a personal duty. If his father was traveling with him and he had the opportunity of joining him for any occasion, for any event, nationally or internationally, it's a different ball game. American presidents do travel on Air Force One with their families. It's allowed. But a situation where the first son, the son of the president, whose office probably is the first son of the federation, now flagrantly flies our presidential jet. Not just that, we have federal government officials coming to wait at the airport to welcome him. So one presidential candidate said, we have to end this rascality. This is the appropriate time to end this rascality. It's more than enough. Unfortunately, Nigerians are the ones edging our leaders. These things to us. You can see the retinue, the culture of friends that went there with him to do what? To watch a polo tournament in Kano. When Nigerians are crying, when Nigerians are dying of hunger, the president's son unofficially is using our private jet is unacceptable. It is clearly unacceptable. If there's any word that is stronger, if there's any superlative that can be used to describe abuse, that is what we should use in this instance.
I'll have to get Charles's view on this. Already he's disagreeing. Now, Charles, as you make to respond, I would like you to respond to something, and then maybe John and Chukwuma will also respond to this. This is not a first, actually. Buhari's daughter also used the private jet to go for a photo shoot. Yes. So yes, let's have your response now, Charles.
Okay, well, why I said disagree with Chukwuma, I mean, what Joy said earlier, Joy just quoted a newspaper headline verbatim, all right? Now, is it wrong? Just like Chukuma said, this young man has not infringed on any section of our body of laws at all right? So is it wrong? There's a yes and there's a no. Let me deal with the no first. First, if you check all our statute books, there's nowhere it's written that the president's family, first family, cannot use the presidential jet or any of the jets in the presidential fleet. That's where I said it is no. It has not contravened any law since the law has not expressly
That's in Nigeria. Nigerian law, you mean?
No, I'm talking about Nigeria,
okay.
Right? Now, but is it right morally? It is not right morally. That's why I said there's a yes, there's a no. So as long as the law is silent or the law does not prohibit the use of the presidential jet, any of them in the fleet, then it has not contravened any law. But as I said, morally it is wrong. When you go to the, if you go to the US, Moses. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I would love to get that view, what Charles was going to say about going to the US there. All right, so unfortunately we hear that there's a network.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm back.
Go
I'm
ahead.
back. I'm sorry about the network, Nigerian network. So what I was saying about the US is this. The US explicitly stated how the Air Force One and Air Force Two will be used. The First Lady cannot use Air Force One because the husband uses Air Force One. The First Lady can use Air Force Two if she's going on an official. Air Force Two is what the Vice President uses, Kamala Harris, as to speak. Right now, if the President is using the Air Force One on official trip, he is not charged. But the journalists that are following him, if, for instance, Moses are following Tinubu elsewhere, the VOP TV will pay for you using the Air Force One or the presidential jet that Tinubu.
Okay.
But if the president is on an official visit and he needs to stop by for campaign purposes, so the campaign post of his party, the campaign from the party will take money from that post to pay the state for the president using the jet for campaign purposes. That's exactly where first of all he has to pay 35% of his income tax as equivalent of when he is chartering a flight for personal use. And then the state of Washington, D.C. will also charge him 10%, making 45% that he will pay for branching to any campaign ground if it's on official visit. That's how the U.S. have been able to explicitly explain it. But in Nigeria, the laws are silent on the use of the presidential jet by the first family. For instance, today, what you saw now, what we're discussing is that Seyi is using the official jet. Law is not that it is the law is silent. So I don't think we can crucify him. All we need to do is to ensure that we go back to the body of law to see how we can tinker with those people. Say the first family cannot use the official jet of the president or at our own expense. They need to pay for it just as it's done in the United States. That's why I said there's a no and there's a yes.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
I also disagree with Charles.
All right. We'd like to get John's view, but let's hear your disagreement, and then we'll get John's view.
No, but let John have his time.
All right, John, go ahead.
Charles.
All right, John. Okay, John, this is not the first time Seyi Tinubu is using the private jet. In fact, there are pictures and so many contents out there that portray the fact that he is used to using the private jet for his own personal outings, as the case may be. And some people on Twitter have said, and I quote, someone said, even if our laws are vague on this, one thing is clear: this is an offense to the moral code of leadership. While another user also said, this act speaks to the lack of transparency and accountability amongst our leaders. Do you agree with this, John?
Just audio is gone.
All right, we seem to have a problem with John's audio quality, unfortunately. So, Chukwuma, I'll come back to you now. Let's hear your disagreement, and then you may want to respond to the question as well that Joy asked.
Let our Lord. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you.
The issue with our law, the issue with our law is that there are so many lacunas in our law. For Charles to say that our law is not expedient on that, I think he's wrong to a certain extent. Do you know that we have civil service rules? You see, when our laws were codified into a single document, which is Nigerian law, so many things were missed out. Now, the civil service rule says, do you know that it is wrong as a civil servant who is entitled to a private car to use it outside official duties, even on Sunday and Saturday, except you have explicitly been given approval by your superior. You get the point. So what we need to do is to look at our anti-graft laws, and this one is part of it because this is a conversion of a public property into private use. He was not on any official engagement. I didn't quarrel because the SSS Act provides for security aids to the president, the vice president, principal officers of the Senate, and immediate members of their families, so that in the course of public duty, sometimes they are in harm's way. So the SSS Act says, yes, we can provide, the law says you can provide security for them. I didn't quarrel with that. My quarrel is with, he is not in any capacity an operative of the federal government, and he has apparently converted our public property into private use, not for an official engagement. If you are being said, okay, go and commission something on my behalf, it would have been a different ballgame. But you went to watch a polo tournament. Charles, our laws takes care of those things. You see, most of this, even though we have a written constitution, we have also conventions. And some of these conventions find their way, even in judgment in the law courts. So that's the point on which
but Okoro, what I'm even saying is that what you have quoted is a very, very large aspect of the law. It's not specific. In the US,
but I reduced it.
No, you didn't. No, you only reduced it to civil service. The civil, can you also call the presidency civil service? The answer is no. So what I'm saying first that the US, because they wanted to eliminate the incidence of lacuna, which was why they were very explicit and even specific to say the Air Force One and Air Force Two, and they also mentioned the president's wife and the president's family. The law states that they cannot use that for public, for private pleasure. If they do that, what they do is that the president has to pay. As I also said earlier, the president has to go on a campaign using the Air Force One. The president has to pay an equivalence of paying for a charter flight. And if that's the first class charges. Okay. So you see that the American laws, they did not allow for any lacuna. They didn't say the civil service rule. But here in Nigeria, we are saying the civil, and the basic point was what we discussed earlier about how lawyers are using their own personal
analyze.
I think we've lost.
All right. Charles, now it's interesting that you're mentioning you're mentioning America, because I'm aware, I've read an article put up by a journalist in America where it was reported that Ivanka Trump, when Donald Trump was in office, Ivanka Trump and her husband Kushner usually more than once attempted to use Air Force One. Now, I say attempt because they did apply to use it, but the secretary, Tyler, Rex Tyler, refused them using it. But they had to get cabinet level members on board with them for them to use the private jet on personal trips. So they found a way to make it semi-official by wooing some cabinet level members to get on board with them so they could attend personal engagements. That was put out there. That was put out there. So how specific then would you say the United States law on the use of Air Force One was? Oh well, let's get our final thoughts in.
Okay. Can I respond to that?
Oh yes, yes, please.
Now, what you heard was one side of the news. The other side of the news you may have missed is the fact that they must have paid as stipulated by law. That the president's income tax will be charged for the use of that by the first family. The law may have been silent on that. And I told you it's 35%, and then the state of Washington D.C. will also charge him extra 10% of his income tax. The law may have been silent, but the reason why they have asked those level of officers who are accompanying them is that it's to just give it to say it is official. But what I'm saying is that if they must use it, the report may be silent on what the president, they must charge it to his income tax will take care of that, and that one is non-negotiable in the US. I did a deep research on that, and so that, as I said, what you have mentioned, yes, they may have done that, but what you didn't get, which of course maybe the report missed out, is that the president must have paid for his family using, or his wife and the other person using the Air Force One. That's what I'm saying.
All right, to you, Charles.
There's also John. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Okay, John is out.
Okay, John is out. Okay, then to Chukwuma then. What action do you think should be taken to address this issue? Is there something that can be done, or is it simply a case of morals and transparency and accountability, basically, and nothing more?
Okay, it's for me or for Chukwuma? Is that for me?
That's for Chukwuma.
For Chukwuma, actually, but you may respond after he has given.
Okay. The point is this. Charles did admit that it is morally wrong.
Yes.
And Charles, you also realize that our laws are derived from our moral codes.
But if it's not stated, that's why I have the quarrel.
Okay. So going forward, since it is morally wrong, Nigerians should condemn it in totality.
Yeah.
And our legislators, our lawmakers should find a way to codify these things into our law books so that we can be very clear on that. So that when I'm trying to hold somebody to account, we are very clear on what we are holding the person up to. But in this case, given everything surrounding Nigeria and the way public officers tend to glamorize, tend to edify themselves on our public property, it's highly condemnable, very, very condemnable. And if the first family, with what they are going through now, I think they should play down on some of their excesses.
Yeah.
They should actually play down on some of their excesses going forward, because the mood in the land, there is a dark shade across the whole nation, and it doesn't speak good of us as a people.
All right, interestingly, Charles. Well, thank you. Chukwuma. As Charles also makes to respond and give his final thoughts, one would wonder. You're asking the first family to play down, but then the president is going on to appoint for himself new SSAs. He's not playing down on anything at all, especially as the case is in court. The legitimacy of his government is in court.
I actually wanted to comment on that matter when Joy asked Charles about whether the whole effort was about damage control. The spin effort, the public relations stunt is all about damage control. The man is not playing down. He's not giving up. And we are talking about Festus Keyamo and Bayo Ononuga and their alter ego, Reno Omok, is on the fringe side of the media. He doesn't hold any position, but he is more active than all the others. The president has added Efeladu Otoye, who was one of us, who has been on our own side, and 4 other people into his media team. To do what? I mean, to come and spin and spin and spin. And unfortunately, while they are trying to spin the whole issue, they might spin it out of control. And when they do, the boomerang effect might be very disastrous. It might be very disastrous. So, because Nigerians are not resting. The youth, everybody is on that page now. And like I said earlier, all eyes are on the judiciary. There's no better moment to emphasize or re-emphasize that adage than now, because that power of discretion is now at the soul of the temple of justice. The Supreme Court judges, whether they admit it or not, is going to speak to the idea that judiciary is the last hope of the common man. Everybody's looking up to them now.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Charles Okoro. Chukwuma Ideho, let's get your final thoughts in as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, sorry, Charles. Okay, my final thought is I won't depart.
No, Charles,
I won't stray. Yeah, I will not stray from what Chukwuma just said. I won't stray from that. But the thing is that Tinubu cannot. I mean, the will of governance cannot grant with her because the president is in court, or opposition is in court against the president. And if you also look at president, it seems to be Tinubu has always had his way all his life. You follow him. I've been following him since I became a journalist, in the early days. And so if you look at why I said it seems as if the Tinubu is jittery, particularly the media, is that Moses and Chukwuma, if you recall, and Joy, if you recall that, when was the last time you heard what's his name during Gelale speaking for the president? Since that first part, since that gap about what's Dubai lifting the ban on Nigeria, I'm sure he must have been cautioned. They've gagged him, they have silenced him. The first person they silenced before was what's his name? The man who is now the minister of Mice and Power. Dele Alake. Dele Alake was the first person they took out of the way. Then Gelale too also had a gap. They took him out of the way. Fela Dotole is gifted in terms of oratory and all that. So the president is now fortifying his own media base, his public relations base. Now that's why he brings all the people. So you tend to see a president that is jilted with all this. But again, Tinubu has never lost any fight. He is believing that being victorious in all fronts in the past. Look at the CCT that he was dropped, but he is still through it and all that. He may be telling you that this will be just another war he fought in the past that he won. That's why today it's not.
It's like we've lost Charles.
Oh well, unfortunately, this is where we have to call it a day. That's fine, Charles. It's a network.
Just one line before you.
It's a network. Well, I think we have Charles back. Charles?
Moses, just one line before you.
Okay.
So, I was just saying that the president will not, as I said earlier, that the president himself, he may be seeing this as not.
Yeah, we have.
Just
he has done in the past. So that's why I close.
All right. Thank you very much, Charles.
One line.
Go ahead, please.
One line. Please look for a way to expand the duration to allot more time to this show, because there's so much to be talked about. There's so much to be talked about, both on the first issue and this second one. So I would appreciate it if you and your management can please allot more time.
We'll look into that. We'll look into that.
Morning.
We'll look into that. Thanks very much.
There's no problem with the time. It's to reduce the gap.
All right then. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your views. We honestly appreciate your views. All right then. Yeah. So, well, that's we must say a very big thank you to Charles Ideho, journalist and public affairs commentator, Chikuma Okoro, also a public affairs commentator, and John Akirili, who joined us but then had to leave to attend to other things. John also is a social commentator. We honestly appreciate you, gentlemen, for your views and comments on VOP this morning. We'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll get into, well, let's just take business right away. Let's take business before we head on to pay some bills on this break. So going straight into the world of business, we do have a few business stories that we will touch on right here on VOP this morning. Now let's see the stories that we are tracking at the moment as it concerns business. This is what we have. All right. Now just a few stories, and then we'll go into sports and entertainment. And just entertainment, because I do understand that we may not be having sports today. All right. So this is what we have for business today. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency has issued a weather forecast indicating the likelihood of dust haze and thunderstorms from Monday to Wednesday across the nation. In its weather outlook report obtained on Monday, the agency predicted dust haze with a visibility range of 1 kilometer to 3 kilometer and localized visibility of less than or equal to 1,000 meters was anticipated over the northern region on Monday. Now, similarly, localized visibility of less than or equal to 1,000 meters is anticipated in some areas. Thunderstorms are also expected later in the day, particularly in parts of Taraba State. In the north central states, visibility values are expected to range between 2 kilometers to 5 kilometers due to suspended dust, with thunderstorms predicted in various regions, including the Federal Capital Territory, Nasarawa, Naija, Kogi, Kwara, Plateau, and Benue states in the afternoon and evening. In the southern states, thunderstorms are expected in the morning hours. Going on to another business story now. Domestic airlines, under the aegis of Airline Operators of Nigeria, AON, on Monday demanded that the federal government allow them procure the requisite license for the importation and distribution of aviation fuel, popularly called Jet A1. AON also asked the government to provide a dedicated support line for domestic airlines to access foreign exchange from the Central Bank of Nigeria in order to enable the carriers to meet their obligations to air travelers. Now, they made the call during a courtesy visit on the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, at his office in Abuja. The President, AON, Abdul Munaf Yunusa, said the purpose of the visit was to brief the minister on the challenges in the sector and profess solutions, as well as congratulate him on his recent appointment as minister. All right, so these are business stories that we have right now for you. More in our business news that will be coming up later. We'll go on a break now. When we come back, we'll get into entertainment. Stay with us.